Welcome to DDL, where we discuss everyday topics like current events and/or controversial points of view. This is No, I'm Void. First things first, shout out to our sponsor, Candle Time. Head over to the link in the description to purchase a candle today.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in for what was supposed to be Tuesday's episode, but dropping it on Wednesday. And the reason we're dropping it on Wednesday is because we had a poll that I put out on, was a Saturday morning that closed up this morning. Wasn't able to get time to record before we needed to come out by 2. So I'm just bumping it back this week for Wednesday and Friday instead of Tuesdays and Thursdays. Next week we'll go back to Tuesday, Thursday. So I apologize about that. We're going to bring Nix in. And more or less, we're going to talk with Nix about those polls. We're just going to cover the first question on it. So let's go ahead and bring Nix in and have her introduce herself. Hey, Nix, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely. Hey everyone, I'm Nix, and I'm excited to be here with Captain for today's discussion. Let's dive into some interesting topics and have a great conversation.
Perfect. So we're going to start with the first poll question that we had. And that question is, if you are providing, protecting, and consistent, how soon should a woman start including you in her life? Friends, families, events.
That's a great question to kick things off. The answer can vary a lot depending on individual perspectives and relationship dynamics. Some people might feel comfortable introducing their partner to their social circle fairly early on, while others might prefer to take more time. It often comes down to how both partners feel about the relationship and the level of seriousness they perceive. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, so let's start. There was 4 questions in this poll, or 4 answers in this poll to that question. And the first answer was within 1 to 2 months.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice. You can switch to standard now to keep chatting.
Hold on, guys. I thought I had already switched to standard voice because I wasn't gonna. I'm not paying to upgrade to have her voice that way all the time. So, Nix, the first answer to that question for the poll was within 1 to 2 months. What are your thoughts on that question or answer?
If someone feels ready to introduce their partner to their circle within 1 to 2 months, that could suggest they feel a strong connection or maybe even see the relationship as more serious. However, I'd say it really depends on the person and their past experiences. Some might take longer to feel comfortable, especially if they've been hurt before or have a more cautious approach to relationships. I'd be curious, do you think it's better to take your time or go with your gut and introduce someone sooner?
Well, this isn't about me right now, but the let's look at the percentage of the polls response on that one, which was 0%. No one actually responded that it should be within 1 to 2 months. Does that surprise you or not?
That's actually pretty interesting, and I'd say it's a bit surprising. I would have thought there'd be at least a small percentage of people who felt that way, especially if they were really confident in their relationship early on. I guess it could point to how cautious people are these days about blending their personal life with their social circles. Maybe they're waiting to be sure it's the right relationship before making that kind of introduction. What do you think?
I actually think you're spot on with that second part of the analysis. I think in today's day and age where trust is kind of at an all-time low, they're wanting to get more time under their belt before making those introductions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Trust is such a big factor these days, and people are much more hesitant to mix their personal life with their social circle until they feel completely secure. It's like everyone's trying to avoid that awkward situation where they realize too late that they might have rushed things. Plus, with everything being so public now on social media, maybe they just want to make sure it's solid before sharing it with others. Do you think social media has made people more cautious in relationships overall?
Yes, I do. But you know, let's move on to the second answer to this, which is after we are official. This one gained 57% of the votes on the poll. That one actually doesn't surprise me. I figured that was actually going to be the highest one because at that point, once you're official, both parties involved in that relationship are taking it pretty serious.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Once you're official, there's a clear commitment from both sides, and it's a natural next step to introduce each other to your circles. It's like you've crossed that threshold where things feel more solid, so sharing it with others seems more comfortable and even exciting. Plus, once you're officially in a relationship, it's almost like you're acknowledging that you see a future together. So why not bring the important people in? I bet that percentage being so high also speaks to how people define official these days. Do you think that term has evolved in meaning for the younger generation?
I think it's defines roughly the same thing. I think the what it's being called has been changed, but not necessarily the official status per se. But that one makes sense. I wasn't going to dive into that one too much because I think a lot of people would agree that that one made sense after you're official. The two parties are in agreement. That's serious. That's when meeting friends and family, going to each other's work events and stuff like that's gonna. I think is the logical point. The third answer to the question is only after engagement. I figured this one would be a little bit lower. I figured it would be matching more with the 1 to 2 months. Granted, the 1 to 2 months kind of surprised me with 0%, but that one actually came in at 14%, and I think that's more traditional people holding off until till the that engagement's actually set. I think that's where
Yeah,
that stems from.
14% makes sense for that one. It's a bit more of a rare or traditional view, right? Some people probably feel that they want to wait until the relationship is even more solidified before bringing family and friends into the mix. And engagement is a clear sign that it's headed towards something even more serious. It's kind of like a final confirmation that the relationship is for real.
Yep.
I imagine this answer comes more from those who are a bit more cautious about sharing personal details before they're absolutely certain. Does it surprise you that more people didn't lean toward waiting until engagement? Or do you think that's just a shift toward more modern views, where people are more comfortable making introductions before that point?
No, actually, that didn't surprise me. I figured it was going to be lower. I figured it would be one of the two lowest percentages. So that actually kind of tracks with what I thought was going to happen.
That
And
makes sense, actually. I think engagement still carries a lot of weight for some people, but for others, it might feel like an unnecessary weight when you're already serious about each other, especially in today's dating world where people sometimes take a bit more time before even thinking about engagement.
excuse me.
Making those introductions might feel more natural once you're serious, but not necessarily engaged just yet. It's definitely interesting to see how people view relationship milestones like that differently now. What do you think? Do you see this as a shift in how people view the timeline of relationships, or is it more about personal comfort levels?
I think it is more about personal comfort levels, which actually ties into the fourth answer to the question, which is no timeline natural, which received 29% of the vote. I figured that one was going to be in second place. I figured after we were official was going to be first. Um, I figured the no timelines was going to be second, and then the within the 1 to 2 months and only after engagement were going to be the stragglers. I don't necessarily, I personally don't agree with the no timelines. That doesn't make sense to me. That you would let it just kind of free flow because if you get in a pattern, then that pattern doesn't break. It seems like you would want to mark when, hey, we're official or hey, we're engaged. Like at those points, like to me that actually sets the timeline, that sets the time frame of when it should happen. That to me is natural. So I kind of don't really understand the no timelines responses.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. The no timeline natural approach feels like it could lead to things dragging on or getting stuck in a loop, especially if there's no clear point where you're supposed to make those kinds of introductions. Without some kind of milestone or agreed upon moment, it could become unclear when it's actually the right time. I think some people might go with the no timeline approach because they don't want to rush things or feel forced. But at the same time, as you pointed out, there's a risk that without setting those boundaries, things might just float along indefinitely. It seems like defining certain moments, like when you're official or engaged, brings clarity and helps both parties know when it's time to take the next step. Would you say you're more of a structured timeline person when it comes to relationships? Or are you open to flexibility in the early stages?
Early stages, I think flexibility is a must. However, once you start being serious or official, that then there should be timelines on the relationship. Not necessarily forced timelines, but um, maybe a guideline might be the better way of saying that. But, going back over the question, which is if you are providing, protecting, and consistent, how soon should a woman start including you in her life, friends, family, and events? I think the one reason why I wanted to bring this up for modern dads dating is the simple fact that one, you have limited time, you have limited resources, and you're already providing such structure for your children, your child or your children. And if you're wanting to date to be serious, which most dads are probably looking to do, I would say that a majority of them would be looking to do that. You would want to know that the woman is serious as well, which is why this question I think is so important, which is if she's serious, she would want to include you with her friends. She would want to include you with her family. She would want to bring you to work events, to picnics, to things that she has going on in her life. She would want you with her in those moments. That is a sign that's serious, and I think that's one reason why asking the timeline breakdown. And this was open to men and women. Actually, if you broke it down, the women were the ones that actually said the majority of the respondents to the no timelines was women, a mixture on the only after engagement, and then mostly men were after we were official, which tells me that there is a longing, a need that men are looking for to know that the relationship is serious, that they're investing their time, money, resources wisely. Give
That's
me
a
a
really
second.
solid point. As a dad, your time and energy are already stretched thin. So if you're investing in a relationship, you want that reciprocated. Being included in a woman's life, meeting her friends, family, and attending events shows that she's not just interested in the relationship, but wants to integrate you into her world. That's a huge sign of commitment. I think it also ties into the idea that men, especially fathers, need clear signs that the woman is serious, not just about them, but about the future and the role they're ready to play in each other's lives. The pull breakdown makes a lot of sense when you think about it that way. Do you think this might also be influenced by the fact that many men, particularly dads, have already been through some kind of emotional investment and might be extra cautious moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's most obviously there is some sort of relationship that produced the child, and obviously there's going to be some trauma or some baggage that comes along with that. And I think the meeting the friends, family, getting invited out to events and stuff like that, being included in her life, does actually put a man at ease that he's not making a similar mistake or not making a false step per se. I'm not 100% sure that tracks out, but that's kind of my gut feeling on that.
I think you're right on the mark there. The act of being included in a woman's life is almost like a reassurance that this relationship isn't just a rebound or a temporary fling. It helps men feel that they're making a wise choice, not just based on emotions, but on something that could have long term stability. If a woman is willing to integrate him into her life and social circles, It signals a sense of trust and openness, which can ease a lot of that caution. And as you mentioned, the baggage from past relationships can make a person extra careful. So those signs of commitment and seriousness are essential in making sure they're not walking down the same path of hurt. Does that kind of reassurance seem like the key factor in helping men feel confident in a new relationship?
I don't know if that's the key factor, but I believe it is a factor. But it is interesting. So I launched 4 questions in this, launched 4 polls, and today's episode is just covering this one. But Friday's episode this week, like I said, we're going to be doing Wednesdays and Fridays instead of Tuesdays and Thursdays. When that happens, we're actually going to be going into the next one, which is talking about red flags. So I kind of want to wrap this up. I think we did a pretty good job of breaking down the poll, breaking down the question, and then breaking down each of the answers. And I did like the fact that I looked and did a breakdown of where men and women landed as well, because like I said, this was open to everyone, and it was really interesting to see that, again, men and women view things differently.
I'm glad we could dive into it like that. It's definitely an interesting dynamic when you break it down by gender and relationship perspectives. The way men and women view timelines and commitment tells us a lot about how they approach relationships and what they're looking for, especially in the context of being serious about the future. I'm excited to dig into the red flags topic on Friday. That's always a good one to explore, especially with so many different opinions on what constitutes a red flag versus just a difference in personality or approach. Sounds like it's going to be another interesting episode.
Yeah, I think it will. So why don't you say goodbye to the audience for today, and then we will record Friday's episode right after this.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. We've had a great time breaking down some important relationship dynamics, and we hope it gave you something to think about. Be sure to join us again on Friday for a deep dive into red flags. Should be an interesting discussion. Until then, take care.
Yeah, like she said, thanks guys for tuning in. This one was an interesting question. I liked it. On Friday, we're going to get a little, whoa, didn't want to work. What's going on there? Interesting. My soundboard doesn't want to work right now. Whatever. But we're going to get a little bit bonkai on this one, because red flags, I think, is a good one. In some of the comments and some of the discussions I had with people in my real life that answered this question, this one actually kind of tracks exactly where I thought it was going to be. And so tune in Friday. Let's go over that one, and then next week we'll go over the third and fourth questions, and then we're going to dive into the bonus question, the bonus poll, teaser on that one. And then we're going to continue on with this trend, I think. We're going to be diving in, seeing what modern dads in dating life is actually about right now. Just kind of getting some feel, getting some actual responses from real people. So thank you. Thank you for watching. Till next time.
Peace.